Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and our Miami Dolphins are rolling. As we head into the bye week, there's a lot to cover, but you gotta start with the dismantling of the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. Many people, myself included, were worried about this game because not only were the Browns coming off a pretty impressive win on prime time against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but they had a bye week in between this matchup and that Bengals game, giving them that extra time to prep for the Dolphins offense. Not to mention, a trap game seemed to be due when you consider all the success the Dolphins have had over the last month and our own bye week looming. This is often a time where teams have that letdown, but no, not this squad. They came ready. We're going to get into Miami's 39-17 victory over the Browns, what it means for the season ahead, Tua looking like an elite signal caller, as well as, of course, the studs and duds from this great performance. What a time, Fins fam. What a time. Let's roll and let's dive in. Thanks to the Minnesota Vikings pulling off an amazing comeback, and of course, with some help from turnover machine Josh Allen, Buffalo went down, not just in the game, but in the overall standings. As a result, the Dolphins sit atop the AFC East and number 2 in the conference. 10 games into the season, there's not really a better way that you want to enter a bye week. Now, of course, the surprise Jets could steal the mantle from Miami if they're able to pull out the win next weekend in Foxborough, which I do think will happen. But hey, we're living in the present. And presently, your Miami Dolphins have been a-rollin'. Mike McDaniel has not only injected energy and innovation into this franchise, but he's brought out the best in our young signal caller. And that's where we're going to start, because if you've been following this channel, you know how strong our belief in Tua has been. The guy we're seeing, that's what we expected and hoped to see. It's not as shocking as it seems to be for the rest of the NFL world that he's playing this well. Now, to be completely honest, I thought that this Tua that we'd be seeing, this would be Tua season 4, season 5, not this fast and not this good. Because for the third consecutive week, Tua balled out, looking surgical as he finished the game 25 of 32 with a 78% completion percentage, along with 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. That's 3 straight games where Tua has thrown for 3 touchdowns and no picks. Oh, and the most important part, all 3 are W's. He's getting more and more comfy in this offense, and nothing showed that more clearly than yesterday. Because the main argument against Tua right now with these ever-moving goalposts, and it was probably the most fair criticism, is how would this scheme work because of how centered it is around Tyreek and Waddle? How could Tua distribute the ball when a defense takes them away? Because come playoff time, as you face top-tier defenses, you can't really expect Tyreek to get 150 yards with ease. We're seeing the Dolphins roll, but a lot of the naysayers and doubters are like, well, yeah, we're going against mediocre defenses. You have an elite weapon on the outside. Just wait until it really matters and you're playing high-level competition. What could Tua do then? But the way that Mike McDaniel and Tua were able to spread the ball around proved that this offense is not a one-trick pony. Tagovailoa had 8 separate receivers, and Tyreek and Waddle were limited, relatively speaking, to them. The Penguin, he led all receivers with 4 receptions for 66 yards. Again, a reduced figure. With the Cheetah close behind, 4 catches, 63 yards, and a second straight game with a touchdown. But like I mentioned earlier, the party was all welcoming. It was a very inclusive vibe because you saw guys like Alec Ingold, Trent Sherfield balled out, Jeff Wilson, and even Cedric Wilson get in on the fun. If Miami can start to get production from their 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th options in this offense, then it's unstoppable. And I want to give credit where it should go first. Before you give it to Tua, before you even give it to McDaniel, hell, before the receiving duo. The only reason the Fins are finding success is because of the offensive line. We, better than most fans, know the importance of protection, the ability for your quarterback to confidently step up into the pocket and fire the ball. The additions, right, of Teron Armstead, Connor Williams cannot be overstated. with the continued development of Robert Hunt as well, the entire unit has been vital in this offense's success. So kudos to them, and I pray to the football gods that you continue to have health going forward. Now, the unit has been knocked down with Eichenberg going down, Austin Jackson, but the fact that they keep rolling, Tua keeps seeing that protection, it goes to good coaching. These guys are being coached like one solid unit in unison, and that is so refreshing to see in aqua and orange. Now, the surprise of this game, right? It wasn't that Tyreek and Waddle were contained, again, relatively speaking. It was the emergence of the running game. Because not only did Miami have a season high 195 yards on the ground, but Jeff Wilson is different. If you told me that the backup running back that we acquired for a 5th-round pick would have a bigger impact than Pro Bowler Bradley Chubb, I just wouldn't have believed you. He's been a revelation in this offense, and his success, when you think about it, it makes sense in hindsight, right? He asked for a trade from San Francisco because he felt like he was being underutilized. Plus, when they added Christian McCaffrey, his workload was even further reduced as a result. So he came into Miami hungry, wanting to prove himself and reestablish himself as a top running back in this league, which, when you look at his numbers over the past couple seasons, he is. He's powerful, runs angry, and he hits the open lane aggressively. The other reason that the fit was perfect is the scheme he came into. It's no secret that Mike McDaniel was the Niners run game coordinator, and he worked out Jeff Wilson privately before the draft. And ultimately, the Niners signed him as an undrafted free agent, large part because of Mike McDaniel vouching for him and Jeff Wilson wanting to come play with Mike McDaniel. He knows his skill set intimately, and Wilson knows the scheme like the back of his hand. So the dividends are paying off. And now with him in the fold, with Raheem Mostert, Miami has a legitimate threat out of the backfield. So our offense, pretty good. How about the D? It's been much maligned, and justifiably so, right? This performance that we had on Sunday was needed to establish some confidence in the unit, which frankly used to be the backbone of this team. If you remember that 7-game win streak last season, it was done on the backs of the defense, shutting down opposing offenses. So yes, you can be fair. Injuries have decimated that side of the ball this season, but allowing the likes of Detroit and Chicago to go up and down the field, get a ton of yardage, put up a ton of points, it's not sustainable. And if this team wants to make noise come January, we need to see better play. And we got exactly that. Because not only was Miami hounding Jacoby, preventing him from putting drives together on a consistent basis, the run defense was excellent. Nick Chubb is the best running back that this defense is going to face. And the Browns were rested coming off of a bye. Their line, it leads a top 5 rushing attack, and Miami's front 7 made them look pedestrian. Chubb only garnered 63 yards on 11 carries, and aside from his one explosive touchdown run, he was quiet. If Miami can make teams one-dimensional going forward, score points, we're going to be in every contest. It's definitely an exciting time to be a Dolphins fan right now. Never before in the history of this pod have we been as relevant as we are now, and frankly, never in my life. We're going to talk further about Miami's playoff odds, which seem favorable right now with the implosion of some other AFC teams, but what are our chances at a division championship, right? No one thought it was possible, but I'll tell you this, it's very possible. And thanks to Miami's recent run, keep stacking the W's, being the top seed in the conference ain't no pipe dream either. And we'll get into those machinations and what needs to happen, who needs to win in an episode later this week. But it's safe to say we may be playing some big games very, very soon. Now, the studs and duds of the game. Our first stud, Tua Tagovailoa, of course. Come on now. We went over his stats already, but throwing 3 touchdowns, never easy, despite how Uno is making it look so easy. The man is out there playing chess, right? These defenders are playing like sorry. He is precise, his timing is on point, and he is playing with confidence. Tuscaloosa Tua, as they call him, is here. But to be honest, considering the level of difficulty in the NFL, he's playing even better. My favorite part of the current Tua hater argument and the narrative being spun is how the receivers just look wide open, right? It's like, oh my God, of course, when you got Waddle and Tyreek and Mike McDaniel's a genius. They've already anointed Mike McDaniel before they'll say Tua's playing well, which, hey, I'll take it. I guess we do have a great young genius head coach. But hey, rather than giving Tua his well-earned credit, They're going to seek to diminish the young man, right? Just for the sake of their horrible takes that they've had over the last 2 seasons. They are take invested. They said he sucked, and now that he's looking good, they got to hold on. They got to hold on. Here's the thing about this offense, right? Mike McDaniel knows what he's doing. Yes, he's putting route combinations and concepts together to help spring his weapons loose. True. But I cannot stress this enough. The reason guys look wide open is because Tua Tagovailoa is making them look wide open. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. Don't you love when I start a sentence like that? But what I am saying is when you think back on Tom Brady's tenure in New England, at the height of his powers, it would be frustrating to see at the field and be like, why are his guys wide open? It's 3rd down. You know he's throwing it to Julian Edelman, yet no one could stop it. I'd be screaming at my TV, right? The Pats continue to roll, and I just couldn't understand how Brady was so lucky. Then, as I learned about the game, I began to realize Brady's not lucky. It's about his timing, his ability to manipulate the defense with his eyes, and knowing where to put the ball on any given play facing any given coverage. That's what we're witnessing. Tua knows where to put the ball, and it's making defenses look bad and making our receivers look wide open. Check when he's releasing the ball. These receivers are not open when he's throwing the ball. He's throwing them open. I know that's a hot button phrase right now. It's something that Fitzpatrick, I bet you, played a big role in Tua's development as well, showing him that, look, in the NFL, you're not going to have Jerry Jeudy streaking down the field with 15 yards of separation. In the NFL, the separation will be there, but you have to anticipate it, and that's what Tua's doing. When Teddy Bridgewater was in there, it's the same offense, the same weapons, yet we couldn't move. The guys were fighting for more contested passes because Teddy was later on his reads. Tua isn't. He is, as I believe Adam Archuleta said, a timing savant. So, hey, he's our first stud. Our first dud of the game, you knew this one was coming. Jason Sanders. Sanders has been bad all season. There's no way around it. Although he did make the field goal attempts, he missed 2 extra points, and that is not going to cut it. It's not a talent issue, right? We know that. It's confidence. He's got the yips, but my question is, can Miami afford to have an inconsistent kicker down the stretch? Because I believe Miami's going to give him probably one more opportunity to right the ship, perhaps hoping that this bye week can get his mind right. Maybe he needs a little getaway, a little vacation. But if there's more struggles coming, then the Dolphins have to look in another direction. And if I had to guess who the Dolphins' next kicker would be, I'm going with Dicker the kicker, right? The guy that the Chargers have. He's probably going to be available soon once Dustin Hopkins comes back from injury. And Dicker the kicker has proven that he can make the pressure kicks. So Miami's probably going to bring him in for a tryout if Sanders continues to struggle, which I fear he will, because this hasn't been a few bad weeks. It's been a few bad months. And even going into the end of last season, the same Jason Sanders, once he got paid, he is not the same. Our second stud of the game, Christian Wilkins. The man is going to get paid. He's going to get paid a lot because not only was he a main factor in Miami's great run defense performance, he was able to combine with Bradley Chubb for a sack as well, which ain't so easy when you're coming from the interior. He has been playing a great top 5 level for interior line play, arguably top 5, and Miami needs that energy to help this defense go. And I love that the former first-round pick, he's continuing to develop. When we took him, people said it was a bit of a reach, right? High floor, low ceiling. But when you consider how young he is, his potential to keep getting better, it's still there. So I'm excited to see how Wilkins continues to perform as this season goes along, right? That pairing with Zach Sealer is amazing. And then the consistent play from Raekwon Davis as well. It makes this interior D-line formidable. Our next dud, and trust me, other than Jason Sanders, these were kind of hard to find considering how good the team played. But again, it's got to go to the kick coverage unit, specifically Danny Crossman, right? The special teams coordinator, because Miami is way too frequently allowing opposing teams to have great field position with their lackluster return defense. We all remember the opening kickoff touchdown return by the Ravens, and although Miami pulled off the win, it's not something that you can sustain. You can't allow opposing teams to get great field position because you're missing tackles. You're not disciplined in your lanes, and guys are streaking down to midfield on what should be a routine kickoff, and they should have the ball 30 to 40 yards further back. Similarly, this past Sunday, the Fins let the Browns get an easy opening drive touchdown thanks to a great return off the opening kickoff. Overall, we need improvement. And again, like I said, the fact that our duds right now are a kicker and the kickoff coverage, I think it shows you how we're feeling right now as Dolphins fans. Our final stud, Jeff Wilson. And I'm not going to get too deep into it, right? Because we talked about him earlier in the program. But my God, has he been exactly what this offense needed? Pairing him up with this explosive passing attack, now having a legitimate ground game, it's going to make every upcoming defensive coordinator stay up at night, even more than they probably already were, thinking of Tyreek and Waddle, right? Jeff Wilson makes the play action more believable, more potent, and it gives us a legitimate threat on short yardage situations. Wilson's going to get better. And again, the more comfortable he gets running behind this offensive line, he learns the way his guys block, he'll improve. So the fact that he scored twice in his first 2 games and just put up over 100 yards on the ground is a great, great sign. Our final dud, something that I will admit I was reaching for, but to be completely honest, it's Mike McDaniel's short yardage play calling. Prior to the end of the half, Miami could have scored twice. There was an opportunity to put up even more points on the board, and the Dolphins were deep in Cleveland territory and were faced with a 3rd and 1. First, they went with old reliable Durham Smythe taking the snap. Predictably, it didn't work considering it was a pretty long one, and Miami has put it on film plenty of times. I feel like every other week we see Durham Smythe do the motion, come behind center, and take the snap. The moment he started coming down in motion, I was sitting there going, oh my God, they're about to do the Durham Smythe snap. And guess what? If I'm thinking that, so are the Browns. They're paid a lot more money to know those things. So if you know it's 4 down territory, which ultimately it ended up being, why not throw it there? Right? Then try to do that play up the middle. Hurry up to the line and do it to try to, get him to jump or potentially get Smythe across the line of scrimmage. Why did they run it twice? In that situation, right? They can't stop Tua. He is hitting his open guy, and if it's only a yard you need, throw it. Frankly, I would have preferred them to take a shot on that 3rd and 1 rather than that weak attempt by Smythe, which again, we've done so much. Regardless, after they tried the Smythe move and it failed, Miami then tried to go up the gut again with Jeff Wilson, who was promptly stuffed in the backfield. And it just feels like as a coach, right, Mike McDaniel's doing a great job, but something about short yardage situations, it kind of makes him more predictable than in any other, down and distance situation. Whenever you think about those moments that you're like, ugh, to Mike McDaniel, it's one of 2 things. It's either this 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 play calling situation, or it's him not taking the points. I think in this case, not taking the points was fine because of how your offense was moving and the belief in your guys to convert, but then the play calling comes into question. Because Tua has proven to excel at the quick passing game, the short game, and I know the week prior he didn't hit Smythe on that 4th and 1 in Chicago, but come on, he had been dealing all game. And once you saw how stout the Browns were playing the run on that specific possession, maybe try to extend them horizontally. Pitch to the outside or quick pass to secure that 1st down and potentially even more points. Look, it's not something I'm too worried about, but it's happened enough where I'm a little bit leery. And hopefully it's just a learning curve issue. He is a first-year head coach after all, and he never called plays in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan there. So you hope that he gets better and better in these situations with the more experience that he gets. I just pray that it doesn't bite us in the ass come playoff time, because we've been playing some weak opponents, so these mistakes ultimately don't matter when you're blowing out the Browns. But again, it's something to look forward to, look at intensely, and I hope that the bye week is used for that. Self-scouting, that's what the Dolphins are doing now. Look at those situations that you struggle. So end of half, time management, which I think the Dolphins did much better at the end of the first half. But in general, you need that operation to be second nature. You cannot be confused. Should we call the timeout? Should we not? And then likewise, when they decide to take the ball out of Tua's hand, I understand you want to have balance, but when it's you got to have it down, a 4th and 1, put the ball in your best playmaker's hands. Don't be too cheeky. And that's sometimes what I feel like the Dolphins are doing. So, where do we stand overall? Well, simply put, 7-3, top of the AFC East, and a legitimate contender for the number 1 seed and a bye in the playoffs. Not to mention home field advantage. which would be huge for this offense as we get deeper and deeper into the winter. Overall, considering everything that has happened this season, new coach, an injury to our starting quarterback, the fact that we're here now is truly amazing. It's been a long, long time. For some of us, never, where we're legitimately considered a top team in the league. So Dolphins fans, enjoy it, bask in it, and just know Tua Tagovailoa is a huge reason why.
Should he be at the top of the MVP convo at this point?
Absolutely, right with Patrick Mahomes. Those guys are 1-1.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hunt down all the people who told me Tua sucked, like Denzel in Man on Fire. Like, I'm gonna find you guys and make sure that you realize all you guys were wrong. The way that Tua is playing right now is off the charts. He's neck and neck with Patrick Mahomes as the MVP. He leads the NFL in basically every category. He's got the best QBR in the NFL. He's actually got a passer rating of over 135 for 3 straight games. You know how many people have done that in the history of the NFL? 1, Tua. The only guy to ever do that. Find me a scarier offense right now to play in outside of maybe Kansas City. The ball comes out of his hands so quickly. He's distributing it. The accuracy, the timing, the touch, the placement of the throws is as good as we've seen candidly since Drew Brees. Prime Drew Brees. That's what this looks like right now. And I'm telling you, everybody, well, ask Ryan when he comes on next hour. There's no defensive coordinator that is not fearing playing against this offense, and it's because of Tua. He's playing as good as you can play, and it's him and Patrick Mahomes right now for MVP.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to the PhinsPod. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Timothy Ritchie, Brian Guger, Chris, Commander Pig, and Dan Kolbasowski, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. So check that out. Link is in the description, or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the continued support over there. And please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show, and subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember that the show is available on all platforms, so if you listen to Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, or prefer to watch on YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram at PhinsPod. I hope you all have an amazing day, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.